Hey everyone, welcome to 3030 Day 20, where I am recording a little video, a little talk, in response to today's prompt, which is simply heated. So, I was inspired by my friend and the artist Kate Paul, who did a series of talks called On the Orientating Power of Hate. And what I take from these talks is that to know what you hate, to recognize what you hate and put energy even into hating, shows you a part of yourself and a part of who you are and a part of what your values are, and can be just as important as knowing what you love and putting energy into what you love. And the talks are really, really great. And I'm thinking about what I hate, and I've been inspired to make a mini talk in the same vein as that. And I want to start it by reading from the blurb of a book called The Hatred of Poetry by Ben Lerner, published by Fitzcarraldo Editions a while ago, and I read it years and years ago, but it's stuck in my mind. No art has been denounced as often as poetry. It's even bemoaned by poets. I too dislike it, wrote Marianne Moore. Many more people agree they hate poetry. Ben Lerner writes, they can agree what poetry is. I too dislike it, and have largely organized my life around it, and do not experience that as a contradiction, because poetry and the hatred of poetry are inextricable in ways it is my purpose to explore. In this inventive and lucid essay, Lerner takes the hatred of poetry as the starting point of his defense of the art. He examines poetry's greatest haters and both its greatest and worst practitioners. And yeah, I haven't read it in many years, but I would like to reread it. It's very good. So what do I hate? Well, something that's come up is a hatred for untitled artworks. I love me a good title in an artwork. The longer and the more unhinged, the better. But to see the word untitled in place of a title on an artwork, it leaves me with a feeling of disappointment. When I was at uni, an artist called Alan McGee came in and gave a talk, and he likes a good title too. And he said that titles are like little poems that you can attach to the artwork, and that resonated with me. I've always appreciated a good title in an artwork or in music, in song titles. I even have like a note on my phone which I've been adding to for years of just like song titles I've made up. And I'm quite attached to the idea of a good title, and a good title is quite important to me for some reason. And I realise it's equally important to me my dislike, my hatred, if you like, of untitled artworks. Because you can't really have an untitled artwork in the system that we use to catalogue and recognise artworks in contemporary art. You have to have the word untitled or sans title. Butchered that pronunciation, didn't I? And you have to have something there. Very rarely do you get a blank space. So untitled becomes a title in itself. And there are examples of artists who play with this, and titles outside of art which play with this convention as well. Felix Gonzalez Torres made it his naming, the naming convention of his works across his, across his oeuvre, where he will use quote marks and he will use the word untitled and then follow that with brackets and then the actual title. And I really enjoy that playing with that convention and that recognizing that untitled is a title. It's like to see untitled in place of a title. It's a thing claiming not to be what it is. It's a thing claiming not to be a title, but it is a title, but it's a placeholder title because the artist didn't want to use a title. And I've been thinking about why that irks me, because it doesn't really matter. It's only a convention. Shouldn't have to even name an artwork or attach any language to it, any attribute to it that you don't want to attach to it. It can speak for itself in its own medium. It doesn't even have to exist as we understand artwork to exist today, which it doesn't have to be in a gallery or have a title or have all this information attached to it like medium and date. It can, just you can plonk what you make outside and just leave it there and let people stumble across it and encounter it. It can be a plant, you can grow a plant, you can draw something and then tear it up and nobody can ever see it. You can recite something in the middle of the street without an audience and let people walk past and catch snippets of what you say out of context as you go past, and it doesn't matter. But there's something I've always really enjoyed and hooked onto when I do go into an art gallery and choose to engage in these conventions of contemporary art and read about the work, read the work's title, read its mediums, its date, the artist's bio and statement and whatever. It's something that's really satisfied a part of my brain which loves information and categorization. So Untitled, I think I take as a personal slight without meaning to, because it defies my desire for some information. It's not, well, it is information in itself, but it's not information that gives me what I want. And the fact that I want this information attributed to categorize and catalog an artwork what that's telling me is that I want order and some kind of formality in some degree, perhaps to help me have control in my life. I'm kind of psychoanalyzing myself right now. But the hatred of Untitled orientates me towards finding conventions with boundaries that I can play with in my own practice, that I can push at, that I can expand or subvert and play with in a really playful way. I enjoy doing that. So I enjoy when a title is really long and really nuts and nonsensical and playful. I've done no research whatsoever, otherwise I would have looked up some examples. But this has gone beyond 10 minutes now, so I want to wrap it up anyways. So on a final note, I think my desire for a good title, I think my enjoyment of titles speaks to my desire to engage with systems and frameworks for structuring information, to subvert them and play with them and find meaning within that. Okay, that'll do. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Don't know if any of that made sense or is audible. I won't listen to this back because I absolutely hate listening to my own voice. That is another thing that I hate, but I didn't want to just talk entirely about myself the whole time. Yeah, cool.